Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Today's episode, I found Mr. Grant here. How you doing, Grant?
I'm doing mighty fine, Zach. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. For those of you guys that Grant has a company called Stop Loss Bags. I ran across them on social media, and just from being a painting contractor and going and looking at countless number of homeowners, crusted Impervo cans or rusted out paint cans in the middle of their heater closet. It's just, I was like, holy cow. So Grant has a product, Stop Loss Bags, and they are, for lack of a better term, if you guys haven't seen them, the best way I can describe them is like a blood bag from the blood bank. And you put the paint in there and you can label it. So we're going to talk about the product, how you came up with this idea. But man, I appreciate you coming on the show today, Grant.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Zach. Love what you guys are doing over there. So happy to talk to you and your crowd.
Excellent, man. We're glad to hear you. I know everyone's gonna be interested in this one. So we'll just kind of kick it off. I mean, just first off, let's kind of get to know who Grant is. Like, where'd you grow up at, and how did your childhood go that led you into the entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, so I'll give you kind of the 101. I'm a northern Minnesota boy, what y'all might call a Yankee. So it's cold up here. Originally from Minnesota, didn't know what I wanted to do coming out of high school, frankly, going into community college. So I took one of these aptitude tests, and it said, you're either going to be a farmer, a plumber, or a petroleum engineer, right? And looked at the first two and said, as an 18-year-old, probably not the sexiest occupation. Let's try this petroleum engineering thing. So I actually went out to the Colorado School of Mines and got a degree in engineering. So I spent the first chapter of my life drilling and completing wells throughout the Rocky Mountains, Texas, West Texas, Gulf of Mexico, Mozambique, worked a little bit on the Macondo oil spill. My company owned 25% of that, so I got to do some reverse engineering on that. And then at the end of the day, decided that life was too short to spend it in the oil field. So I came back up to Minnesota, got my MBA, and was walking with my then wife in my neighborhood and said, Graco, what's that baby stroller company doing in Minneapolis, right? Yeah. And looked into it a little bit and found out it was actually the paint sprayer company. So got in with Graco and started doing M&A for them, mergers and acquisitions. Bought a handful of companies, started up a division, and ended up running that division for Graco. A few years ago, an opportunity came up with Stop Loss Bags. I was always looking for a business to run on my own, working for the man. While it's good, right? It's a lot lower risk. It just didn't satisfy me at the end.
So what year was this when you ran into Stop Loss?
I bought Stop Loss coming on about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so it was actually a Minnesota-based business as well, another good Yankee. But this guy's name, he's an absolute sweetheart of a man. His name is Tom Shrunk. He's now, I think, about 83 years old, and he does custom veneer work. So he makes like custom Steinway pianos. He's an artist of the artist sorts. And so he invented this bag because he'd use a couple ounces like a poly or a stain or whatever, go to use it a week later and it skimmed over. And he was just sick of that stain going bad. So he invented this Stop Loss bag. So pour the stain in, squeeze the air out like a marinade, put the lid on, and then the product is actually shelf stable for over 12 years. So he invented this product like 12 years ago. Hold on one sec. I'm going to show you some of the original. So this is one of his, actually, this is a Watco Danish oil in one of the original bags. This was put in here in August of 2014. And so it's still at like 99.98% of its original weight, and it's still perfectly good, right? And so I've got a box full of these old tests. So he started using it for himself. And he actually wasn't selling it. after a few years, he had enough friends say, hey, can I buy some of those bags from you? And so he started taking it off. It's become a cult classic in the woodworking space, right? But Tom got to be 83 years old and said, man, for the rest of my days, I want to make art. I don't want to run this business. So he decided to sell. So I bought it. And coming from Graco, knowing in the finishing market, right, just in terms of pure product, that stains, wood stains are like 2 to 3% of the market, and paint is the rest.
Right
So
now,
I thought,
yeah.
Can I use this product in paint? Well, if you pour paint in here, right, when you pour it in, the air can't escape back out. So it actually takes like 10, 12 minutes to fill up with this one nozzle. So I said, well, I'm an engineer. How can I fix that? And think about the old gas caddies, right? So you pour in a thick fluid here, and then the air just escapes out the side there, right? So same product, same material. It's patented. It's actually got 3 plies, right? So the solvent can't evaporate out, so the oxygen can't get in. So just launched that last fall, right? I'm an engineer. I need to build new things constantly in order to scratch that itch inside me. So I love building and creating new things and making my own way. So just launched it, right? And so this product's actually been in here since last year. This is just a good Sherwin latex, right? Here's how you mix it, right? I've got OCD, again, back to that engineer. You can see what color paint it is. You can write what it's on there. And the touch-up takes me about a minute and a half, right? So love that product. Going forward, again, think about new products. And then it just, bringing it out to a show. I was at the Paint Contractor Show in Colorado Spring.
The PCA, yeah.
Show.
Okay, yeah.
And then I think at the hardware show, some really nice guy on Instagram, BYO Tools. I'm not a social media guy. Sorry, I'm a little bit older than you are, so I haven't quite figured out how to work it. He came by and he's like, hey, can I shoot a video? And I was like, yeah, man, that's great. Shot a quick video, came back home, and I was like, I got a lot of orders.
This is why social media is something you gotta have today.
Man, these kids know what they're talking about. I'll never admit it to them, but...
So when you were at Graco, I'm going to kick back a little bit.
Yeah.
How long did you spend at Graco?
I was there, I don't know, somewhere around 8-9 years, I think, in the end.
8-9 years. So
yeah.
So what made you, on a business level, what made you want to go from petroleum engineering to M&A?
Oh, that's a good question. Petroleum engineering is a lot of fun because it's a lot of visualizing things that you can't see, right? So if you're going to drill a well bore in 12,000 foot of water and go an extra 20,000 feet, you have to be able to close your eyes and visualize what's happening 3, 4, 5 miles away, right? In your head, you have to think about all the risks, all the potentials, right? And kind of come up with these different scenarios. It's a lot, frankly, the same in M&A. So, what are the risks in these deals? What could possibly happen? And then if you kind of think back to wildcatters, and frankly, I'm a fisherman too, you're always fishing, and it's kind of fun when you hit something, right? So they say for every M&A, the rule of thumb is if you're interested in 100 companies, right? Like these are 100 companies I want to buy. 3 to 4 will actually say okay and show you their books, and you might actually close one.
Yeah. I mean, I love the entrepreneurship side is something that I've always found fascinating, and always in starting a business or looking for a business to invest in or buy, whether it be a boring business or more involved. And my wife is convinced that I'm just addicted to the hunt.
There is a lot to that, man. It's fun.
It is.
Even with these bags, it's like, can I come up with an idea and go test it in the market? And will people actually like that idea, man? There's a little bit of a adrenaline rush for me. It's like fishing, right? If I'm not catching anything, I'm going to throw a different lure on and see if that works.
Yep. See what else is out there. I mean, it is definitely, we're actually looking at a couple businesses now over in West Texas. And my wife's like, are you ever going to stop? I'm like, no, I can't.
You can't. It's that disease. It's like, why are people artists? It's not because they choose to. It's because they have to, right? Why are people entrepreneurs? It's not because they choose to. It's because they physically have to.
So it's kind of like, I say, you got 2 options. I love, the real estate side as well, but land, and I'm just real big in the farm, ranch, horses. I just feel like I should have been born 30 years ago sometimes and been in that world. So I'm like, well, we got 2 options. Either look at buying land, more land, so we can have a ranch and more cows and horses that cost us money every day, or I find a business that hopefully can make us money. She's like, okay, stick with the latter.
Yeah. I need a healthy outlet for what I'm doing, and the healthiest thing for me to do is to do this business.
Exactly. We'll do this one and move on. That is interesting. So what years were you at Graco? I'm trying to think if probably didn't have much to do in the product development, or deal with those guys very much.
When I ran my own division, I did. So I was probably there don't quote me on this, 2014, 2015, I think is about when I started out.
Okay. And then what department were you running? What product was that?
So in the end, I was actually running the oil and natural gas division.
Okay. And what all is, that is exactly what all is Graco into nowadays?
Graco's into a little bit of everything. And since I left, they got a new CEO and kind of restructured everything, right? So this is all when I was there, but Graco does a great job in engineering as well. They love engineering, and they're into a lot of things that folks don't even consider, right? Because, you're in painting. When you start to look at things, darn near everything's painted, right? From the airplanes you're in to your houses your cars. But, they also do fluid control. So dropping little dots of glue in cell phones and doing powder coating for your appliances. And, man, they're a little bit of everywhere.
That's great. Yeah. I tell people that all the time when we're talking, and they're like, how is the painting industry? And I'm like, just look around. Everything has a coating on it. Everything. Cars, houses, RVs. Wood, in the oil and gas. They'll coat stuff to keep it from rusting. Everything has a coating on it. It's just mind-blowing of how much business there out there in this field specifically of coatings.
Yeah, it blows your mind when you start to get into kind of market sizing and how big things truly are. Just a number from my background from stop-loss bags, looking at paint cans, right? That's kind of what I'm replacing. So that's my market. The estimate for the paint can industry is $5 billion just in paint cans. That's not the paint that goes in them, just in the cans themselves.
Just in the can and the bale and the lid and the label. Yeah. From my time in manufacturing, I probably know more about paint cans than I care to ever know again. I did not know it was that involved. And there's companies out there now that, kind of like you. I would say you guys, stop loss would be, I'm looking at your website here, more of a value add to a paint can than necessarily a disruptor. But there's guys out there, I can't think of their name, and I did some business with them, but I would say more the disruptor, because they're the all plastic. They're trying to replace the metal paint cans. God love them. Great concept. Horrible execution. But they're nice guys. It just doesn't quite work. And the industry is just not accepting it. But that whole episode when I was in the manufacturing world, just, oh my gosh. Never even knew there was that much involved in paint cans and the technology.
No, they're great for transporting paint, right? If you're going to take a tractor trailer full of paint cans, right? They've got that structural rigidity to stack 30 of them on top of each other. So paint cans are great for transporting paint, but storing them, right? They're not inherently designed to do that.
No. There's too much, the void around there. The oxygen gets trapped inside. There's no way to get it out. And they're very rigid and very strong until a forklift meets them. Then you just have a lot of claims and a lot of spilt paint. I've been down that one a few times. So on your website, you have what looks to be like what you were showing me, the original bags. So can you use the same bag for your pigmented stuff versus like a stain? Or are you
100%.
Okay. So you're basically one bag that goes across.
Yeah. So the materials are the exact same. So the materials will stand up to 99% of all paints out there. Things like your toluenes and your xylenes that literally eat plastic and flesh. Don't store those in the bags, right? but for everything else, they're good. No,
Like a poly or, like a polyurethane. I wouldn't put a hardener in there. I mean, do you have something that because again, I revert back to my days in the manufacturing of 2K polyurethanes, and you've got your hardeners, not necessarily your acid catalyst, but your polyurethane hardeners, which are horrible. At most, all the water-based polyurethane hardeners react with oxygen and water. So you have them in those plastic bottles, whatever it is, a little bit gets on the threads, you screw the lid back on. If there's any air in that bottle, it will harden. I mean, in a matter of 30 days, it's ruined. And it's the most expensive part of that. Like, can you transfer that over into one of these bags and utilize it that way to store the hardeners?
Yeah, for sure. And you can always send me a message and I'll double check the chemical compatibility.
I mean, that's something good for the 2K guys you go through hardener, like buy a gallon of paint and the hardener you buy it in a gallon is what you would want to do, because that saves you money, but no one ever does. They buy the pints and the quarts because it always goes bad.
Yeah, 100%. Now, for some of your listeners who may not kind of know the basics, let's just go through paint 101. Most paint's got a solvent and a pigment in it, right? You throw it onto a wall or paint it onto a wall, and that solvent evaporates out, and what's left is your color. So my bags are predominantly meant to prevent that, right? To prevent that solvent from boiling off and just leaving you hard paint. The bags don't prevent like your A-B parts. When those mix together for catalysts, et cetera, that's a chemical reaction.
Yeah, that's a chemical reaction. But for storing them separately, I deal a lot with the finishers. I have a lot of finishers that listen that are in the shop working, and my brain's going to, this is an excellent, I'll call it secondary way to store your hardener and even your paint if you want to, but especially if you're going through production and you're running 5 gallons of your primer and you've got a gallon or two of your hardener and you've got some left over. I mean, because the hardener's, like I said, it's the most expensive part. Being able to throw it in one of these things. So how is that's a little ass top to try to get paint into. I was like, how does that work?
Specifically, little ass. I like that. I like these Southern boys. So this small one is like a 10 mil fitment or nozzle, right? And the original guy wanted it for that finite control so that when you squeeze it out, you can get that finish to the very tippy top and there's absolutely no oxygen left in it. And then I actually have quite a few folks who will just pour this directly on the wood, right? So you don't get that air bubble integrated into your stains or polys.
I mean, yeah, if you were doing a stain, that's a good idea. But how do you get the product into the bag?
It comes with a funnel. It comes with a silicone funnel that just slips right over the top of this. And then it comes with what's called a filling clip. I could grab one here for you in a sec. Here, why don't I do that? Give me a sec. Really, the silicone funnel people like because you can pour paints in it and then just tip it over and dry it. And you can peel out the paint the next day and reuse it. Or you can just wash it out kind of like anything else. The other thing that comes in the bundles is what I call this filler clip. It's like a tuning fork, right? It's just a little piece of MDF. You can make your own, but you just clamp this to the edge of a table or to a tailgate or something like that. Slip your funnel on and fill it up. It takes me about 40 seconds to fill this up with a paint or a thick latex or anything like that.
And how much, do you have different size bags or just one size?
Right now, just the one size. It says a quart on there, but it'll hold about 1.5 quarts. Coming out in 2 months. Again, I'm an engineer. I like building things. I'm coming out with the customer requested a 6-ounce sample that I'm just going to call the sampler. So it's going to look like this with a little bit bigger fitment. So think if you've got clients who are doing a big custom job, custom cabinets, custom metal roof. No matter how careful you are, you always have a little scratch.
Yep. And you always need a control sample for go back and do touch up, or they want more anything. I mean, you always want to save. I mean, I used to do little 1.5 ounce jars, and I would and you just have it labeled on there. And after a while, you got a shelf of them. But that's a good way to store them because they won't go bad, and you can go back and do a drawdown so you can get your color sample.
Yeah, or even just if you're doing a big job, just send them a 6-ounce exact color match with the job, right? Yeah. So I've got a 6-ounce coming out, and then hopefully in about a year, I'm trying to go up to a gallon as well.
So I'll throw some R&D in there. Like if you go above like a half gallon, like almost like a little tripod that would just connect to the edge, that would maybe fold up, that you could just kind of put it in. You could be in the middle of a room as a painter and then pour some in there, so you don't have to clamp it to anything.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But even more,
I had another guy, right, they're woodworkers. So I've got guys who will put the funnel in here and just come up with a stand, right? And you can do one on each side, and I can send out diagrams for that. What I would recommend, if you have an empty case of beer, just tip that on its side and cut like a 2 3/4 inch hole on the top. You can set the funnel in there, the bag underneath, and you're good to go.
There's a man that knows his audience. What about like, and now I just merged, because I really think like in the touch-up kits, even in like some on-site situations, a 2K kit to where you could put one on one and one on the other, like that concrete stuff. And then you can smush it together and then pour it out of one. And you've got so much time for, if you're sending a 2K or going on site to do a 2K touch-up. It'd be a clean way to mix it up. Yeah.
No, that's a great idea.
Man, so 2 years you've been at the helm of Stop Loss.
Yep.
Where do you have distribution? Is it basically, are you direct to consumer? How can people get a hold of it? How are they getting hold of it now?
Yeah. So right now, the woodworking side of things is sold globally through distribution. Your wood crafts, your rocklers, your local mom and pops, a lot of those folks will carry the product. I partner with a lot of OEMs as well, hard wax companies, some new folks who are really doing good things will either offer this as an option to store their paint after you buy it, or it'll actually come in the products itself. The new bags are getting new, and I'm trying to blow it out through distribution. My goal is to have it in brick and mortar stores, so it's close when painters want it, right? Or
that's what I'm thinking, like the paint distribution world. That's where, I mean, you go to pick up your paint from, whether it be SW, Ben Moore, PPG, and then just pick up a couple bags while you're there.
100%. And I'd love to partner with those folks, but dealing with those large corporations is an enigma wrapped in mystery at the end of a labyrinth. Man,
I might have a little bit of idea how that works out.
It is brutal trying to get in. They're all great companies. I'm sure they've got their reasons and the rationale to do it. Ideally, I'd love to partner with them so that, right, their customers can benefit from it. But right now, I'm going through a few brick and mortar stores, paint stores. My website, I sell direct as well on my website. I've got a distributor who sells on Amazon, those folks. And I'm slowly building out that channel.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was just sitting here thinking, just from my dealing with distribution world, like, have you heard of All Pro?
I have.
Yeah. Scott and Mike need to see this thing. This seems right up their alley to put in their DCs.
Yeah, no, I'd love to work with All Pro. Starting some conversations with some of those larger distribution houses right now. I'm a part of the Hardware Distribution Alliance, which covers off like 20,000 hardware and paint stores. But you guys know this space as well, right? It's a bit, let's just call it antiquated in terms of we've always done it this way. Why the hell do we need to change? Yeah, so when you get some Yankee coming in with a plastic bag saying you should store your paint this way, they all flip me the bird and go drink a beer. I don't blame them. But it takes time with new ideas, right? And your listeners know this. You want to try out something new, you got to find the right customers to try it out and really to take that risk.
Yeah. So what, you said you went to the PCA show. What other types of shows have you done?
PCA show, I was at the National Hardware Show, I think, which is where that video was taken, then went viral. I'm doing the wood turning show. They're a very loyal customer of mine, have been for over 10 years. Annual woodworking, American Association of Woodturners, International Woodworking Forum. I'm going to the National Association of Home Builders next year down in Orlando.
Oh, that'll be a good one. There's one coming up in Vegas in August. August, end of July, beginning of August, called AWFS.
Yep, I was. They were in Atlanta last year, I think. Right?
Yeah, they flip. So there's AWFS and IWF. They both used to do a show every year, and they finally realized that was dumb. So they trade years. IWF is in Atlanta. It's ridiculously huge. And a lot of international customers come. AWFS is in Vegas. It's probably half, maybe a little smaller. So it's just not just mind-numbingly huge, but it's also, I would say, 75% domestic. Mostly all U.S. companies distribute in the U.S. You're not going to see near as many of the heavy machine guys, but because they don't, most of the guys that are coming to visit the show are very much a lot of the West Coast guys. You don't see much of the West Coast guys over at IWF, but you see more of the European companies come over. And it's a fun one. It's a fun one to go to. I've been to it multiple times. It's not near as overwhelming.
Some of those trade shows, man, where it takes you like 3 days just to walk the show itself, your mind goes numb after about 4 hours. I don't see how folks do it time and time again.
Yeah, that's IWF for sure. I mean, you just walk and go, and I just can't. I made my fathom it. No, the first time I went to that show, I made the mistake of, I'm a boot and cowboy hat guy, and I wore my cowboy boots the first day to that show, and I mean, I got home on my feet all day because we had a booth. Man, I was just limping like a little baby, crying. My feet hurt so bad. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, that was a rookie mistake. Then you went out and bought some of those old man shoes with about that much cushion on the bottom of them and loved your life.
The old SAS shoes.
The lawn mowing shoe, man. Absolutely.
Well, so what are let's see here. What are the plans? I mean, what are you working on that's fun right now? Anything exciting?
So I'm just growing it right now, man. So I love growing the business. I love finding new channel partners. I love going out there and actually, again, it's back to fishing. It's kind of testing the market. It's talking to folks and say, hey, would this work for you? Right? Or finding out kind of what pain points. Is it because they want their closet back, right? So is it some female homeowners who want their paint closet back? Or they realize good paint's $100, $150 a gallon anymore. So that last little bit's a $20 bill, right? So trying to get my message effectively to them. Or is it paint contractors wanting to add a little bit of better service on the end, right? And trying to deliver a product to folks who could use it that they want and that they'll use. So it's kind of, I've got it out there, tweaking it. I'm on kind of that treadmill of new product development. So every year I'd like to come out with a new product and just grow the business, man. I find it fun to grow the business, to meet new people like yourself, right? To get folks who truly value or who this actually solves a problem for them, right? When it's a win-win, that's a lot of fun for me.
How does it, and I just thought of a question, how does it do? Because, I mean, most contractors or homeowners, they take the paint and they throw it in their heater closet or somewhere where it's going to be hot, it's going to be dry, it may not be temperature controlled. And then we all know, everybody listening should know, the water-based paint, don't want it to freeze. But at the same time, with the fact that you're getting the air out of there, have you guys done any, or yourself or the original guy, done any extreme temperature testing to know how it performs?
So the bag, you can look up the material properties. The bag will be good to like 30 below zero and like 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So the bag's not going to really change anything. It'll be as good as your paint is, right? And everyone listening knows paint is a 40 degrees to like 85 degrees is the ideal way to store paint. So I live in northern Minnesota. My basement is cold. It's at like 50 degrees almost year round. And I haven't found anything. I've got accidentally left some bags of stain in my garage over winter. So 30, 40 below, the bags are perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, and I used to tell people this in the manufacturing world and when consumers or distributors, we don't want the paint to go below 40 degrees. But the way the new resins are designed, they can freeze. And then if they're brought to room temperature and left for a week, they'll be fine. You can still reuse them.
Yeah. A lot of those are going to be, like you said, fine. And my bag certainly isn't going to impact it. It'll be up to the paint or whatever finish you're using. That'll have more of an impact on your temperature range than my bag will.
So I was just thinking, I was in Minneapolis a couple months ago. I think it's been longer. It may be about 6 months ago. Like October was my first time up to Minneapolis. I was visiting a guy named Robert Chicky. I don't know if you know him. He owns a company called Bespoke Finish. He does a lot of custom stains that he creates for people, but he's a master finisher, and he is the distributor of Vero Metals North America. Is a liquid metal company, but a great guy. I should probably get you in contact with. But we were up Lake Bear Township, something like that.
White Bear?
Yeah, that's it.
Go Bears. Yeah.
That's it. That was my first time in Minneapolis, was going up there to visit him at his place. And I got to say, like, Minneapolis is beautiful up there by that lake.
Minnesota is absolutely stunning for about 5 months of the year.
I mean, he sent me an email or a text not that long ago. He was in Miami, and then he was like, I gotta head home. And it was less than 40, 60 days ago. And he's like, we got like 17 inches last night. And I'm like, yep, just killed it for me. I'm out.
Yeah, you got to like the cold weather. But no, Minnesota is absolutely beautiful. Good, friendly Midwestern folks, too. I'd recommend anyone come up here. Just try and avoid it in the winter. Unless you like ice fishing, and then you're good to go.
Then you're good to go. So you've traveled quite a few places. What has, being with the oil and gas, or even with, I imagine with Graco, did some traveling with them on the M&A side. Like, what are anything about the industry that you noticed in your travels, or even now, that you would like to see, maybe like a transition or something that you just thought was, man, now that's really cool. Why don't we do that in the U.S. or in the coatings market from the oil and gas side?
I think those things, all these evolutions are slow, right? So especially when you look at kind of more of the Europeans view painting to be more artisan, right? So they don't use as many paint sprayers. Everything's done by hand because things are going to last 100, 200 years, right? Versus a lot of America, if you're building cookie cutters, essentially, you just kind of want to go through it and make that process. So a lot of things take time. And in oil and gas, that's starting to come along where commodities are just getting more expensive, right? So how do you preserve those commodities so you can make sure to use like 100% of whatever you're buying? Why throw it away? It's why I actually called it the steward, right? The EPA came out with the fact that Americans throw away 80 million gallons of paint a year. 80 million gallons of paint a year, which is like 8 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of paint. Just throw it out in the rubbish, right? So can we save 5% of that? Can we save 10% of that? Not only, right, let's leave the campsite in a better place than we found it, but that paint, if it's going for $100 a gallon, you just saved a lot of money. So I'm starting to see generational shifts, right, where they're slowly kind of taking over industries of how can we do this in a little bit better way? Not just because we believe in it, but maybe because our customers believe in it. And that kind of is where I'm seeing more of the overall shift. And you can take that into account with the tariffs and kind of this overall conversation of when you have a business, and I do marketing strategy at the local university on the side, right? When you have a business, you can only truly be good in one of three things if you want to succeed, right? You can have the best product, you can have the best service, or you can have the best price. You can't have all three. You can't have two. You can only be the best at one, right? Product, service, or price. You can be good at, right, focus on one and then have a little bit of the second, but you can never have all three. And what I'm seeing with, right, the globalization of manufacturing and a product and all of that is the product levels themselves, the difference between the best paint and the worst paint, right? That envelope's getting a lot and a lot closer. So as business owners, what can we truly focus on, right? And frankly, it's a lot of it's getting to be service. So how can we add that extra level of service? And it's hard, right? I'm an engineer. Most engineers can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Painters are a lot better than that. But still, painting's kind of a solitary business too, right? So how can we shift and realize that that shift is coming and it's getting to be towards service? So how can we change our model and really how can we get there?
Yeah. I mean, service is something that I've always preached on, and whether I'm coaching someone or my employees when I had my painting company. Like I read a book, and I've talked about it before, but it's still, in my previous life, I was a manager for Avis Rental Car. And one of the mentor there that really changed my, changed my view on things was a guy named Dave Olson. And he preached out of this book called Inside the Magic Kingdom. It's a fiction book about Disney back in its heyday when it was the creme de la creme. And the whole theory behind the book was talking about, along with the service is the experience. And they brought in, I think it was 4 people to completely go behind the scenes of Disney to find out how they did what they did. And Dave just immersed himself in this book and this process of creating a unique experience. It's not just about the price. It's not just about the service that you offer. It's about the experience that you're giving the customer when they leave, while they're there, after the fact, before the fact. And it really hit me when in one of the classes, they reading the book and you're discussing it. And he's like, all right. And we're Avis managers for Avis Rental Car. And he's like, who's your competition? And we're like, well, Hertz, Dollar, all the other rental car companies. He's like, who else? It's rental car companies. He's like, you got to think of the experience. Like anyone who offers a better experience than you is competition. So it doesn't matter what industry they're in. And I think kind of to point where you're saying, that's where a lot of stuff is headed that way. It's all about the experience. If they compare you like, oh yeah, we were at Quick Trip the other day, a convenience store, and the restrooms were clean, but now you're at Disney or you're somewhere else. It doesn't matter the genre that you're in, the industry that you're in. You got to go that extra mile nowadays. And because if you don't, there's nothing to remember. Painter's a painter's a painter. A carpenter's a carpenter's a carpenter.
Yeah.
And it's a great book. If you've ever got some downtime or just want a good book about why Disney did the stuff that they did, about creating that experience, is fantastic.
Yeah. And the whole, like you said, a rising tide, right, raises all boats. But in customer service, it's a rising tide all the way around. And you can thank the internet for that and the immediacy of, hey, where's my order? I expect a call automatically, get back to me. That's not just because of Amazon. People are expecting if you call them, they want to call back in the same day, right? And it's not necessarily on you. It's because that whole rising tide has raised customer service levels for everyone.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's kind of where things are starting to go. And I hope people can kind of latch onto that, because another saying that I love is your next best customer is the one sitting right across the table from you already, right? So like you said, back to Disney, how does it make you feel when you're not in the room? And back to personal branding, when people aren't with you or in the same room and they close their eyes and think about you, what do they think? What do they see? Do they have a good feeling? Are you happy? Did you shake their hand? Or were you a dick and didn't call them back for 2 weeks, right? Because they're going to tell all of a sudden, back to social networking, they're going to tell all their friends about you, good or bad, right? So I think people need to be aware that that's just kind of the pace and where things are going.
100. Yeah, I was just talking to a guy I jumped on to do a meeting with the other day that needed some help, and he's trying to grow his business. And one of the things that I think stands contractors, especially the painting and the finishing contractors, out, there's a couple things. It's when you schedule an estimate, show up, call them on the way, And do not leave without giving them an estimate right there and asking for the work at least twice. Ask for the business twice, show up, call them, and don't leave without giving them an estimate. On paper, written down, here's your estimate. And if you'll do those 5 things, your close rate will go through the roof in our world, because 99% of painters won't do that.
Agree. I can't find contractors, and not necessarily the painters in my area, because I've got some really great ones, but contractors in my area, they won't return a phone call. I want to give them money. All it takes is for them to answer or return a phone call or an email, and they won't do it. I finally got one to come in, wanted to quote out a new furnace and AC unit. He said, yeah, I'll send you a quote by the end of the day. I called him back a week later. Nothing. He said, can I come out and talk to you about it? I said, sure, we already did that. He came back out and said, I'll have a quote to you at the end of the day. Finally, a week after that, came back in with just their standard list pricing and handed it to me. I said, what are we doing?
Golly, my father-in-law was a big mentor to me into the painting contracting world. And his, 30 plus years in business, his big deal was, as a painter, if you will just call people back, you will outsell 90% of the painters out there. I mean, in that service contracting world, just call people back.
Yeah. And I'll tell your listeners something. I'll pay more for people who call back. Right back to that product, service, or price.
And the products are about par right now. I mean, everybody's got the same product. I mean, let's face it. It doesn't matter if it's, any of the 3 monster paint manufacturers or the 50 boutiques out there. Everybody's reverse engineering everybody else's crap. So, like, as far as product level, it's all, you're...
Paint is paint. Don't tell any of the OEMs I'm trying to partner with that. Paint is paint. The quality of their painting, that can go up and down, right? Between the best painter and the worst painter, that can go up and down. But really, for most homeowners, they won't be able to tell the difference between somebody who's the absolute best in their game to a B-level player. Other painters can tell, but homeowners can't.
Yeah, no.
So how are you going to compete with him? Price or service? Service is a lot easier. I'm just going to throw that out there, for me at least.
Services dictates your price. So, that's a pretty easy one to me.
Yeah. It makes sense when you sit down and rationalize it. Now, we're Americans. If you can measure it, you can improve it, which is why our economy is the best in the world. So, I challenge folks, all right, if it's going to be service, how do you measure it, right? And how do you improve on that? Is it your goal is to call everybody back within 1 day, or set whatever your goal is? All right, now after a month, did you do that? If not, how can you improve it, right? Or return an email within 2 business days, or whatever that is, right? Set some goals for yourself that you can actually measure, right? So you can call BS on yourself or not. Set some goals and see if you achieve them.
Or have, get yourself a coach or someone that can help hold you accountable if you're not holding yourself accountable.
Get yourself a wife and tell her your goals. It's going to be the absolute best coach you've never wanted in your life.
Truer words probably have never been said. That's awesome. Well, so let's hit on that a little more. So you do marketing at a local college there, like teach classes?
Yeah, I do. I do marketing strategy at the local university.
So what are, for guys listening to the episode, what are, I'd say top 2 or 3 marketing strategies when you get into the service-based industry for these guys that are wanting to, I take it to the next level is kind of a broad term, but I tell these guys, I think if it's more of an approach to, you got to stop working in the business and start working on your business. What would be, as a professional, what would be some marketing strategies that these painters and anybody that's in the service-based industry can use to grow their business and start working on it instead of in it?
All right. So this is going to change, right? Because it's different down in Dallas, Fort Worth than it is in Minnesota. It's regional and everyone understands how things are different and why they're different. But it doesn't matter if you're the best contractor in the world. If people don't know about you, you're not going to get any business, right? Getting people to know about you is essentially sales and marketing. So how do you efficiently get the word out there about your services and your product? That's marketing, right? How that happens today is social media. if you only have $500 to spend it on social media, right? If you just look at the statistics of who you can reach, it's just much, much more efficient in social media. And again, I strongly dislike social media. I wish people would just go and have a phone call and share a cup of coffee. But it's so gosh darn effective, you can't get away from it, right? And even in my business, I can advertise on social media and I'll see my website hits directly correlated, go up and go down, right? When I pay for it and then when I stop paying for it.
Yeah, I think they can turn that switch. Like they see you don't do it one month, they're like, all right, we're going to drive this guy's sales down. You're like, damn it.
Yeah. So I'd really encourage you. And then if you only have a limited amount of time, go out there and learn how to do it on whatever social media platform works for you locally, right? And again, back to if you can measure it, you can improve it. So you can go into those things and tweak different search terms. So I'd really encourage you folks to tweak your search terms and see what works better for you. Do it every month. Change them just a little bit on who your targeted audience is. What's the ideal age group? What area are you looking for? What are some like interests? And a way to think about that is, who are your best customers today? How do you replicate them? How would you describe them? Are they women? Are they men? Are they young? Are they old? What hobbies do they have? What zip codes are they in? You can specifically focus and target on each one of those in social media advertising, and you can choose how much money you're going to spend each day, whether it's $5 a day or $10 a day or $100 a day, whatever your level of business. Go in there and tweak it, and then correlate that back to whether it's your website hits or your phone calls or however you're asking, whatever your call to action is. Measure those and try and improve it every month. That's kind of the one.
So tell me, and if I'm full of crap, tell me I'm full of crap. But I get guys that say, man, I'm just starting out. I don't have money. And I've got guys that spend $6,000-$7,000 a month on social media marketing. Guys are like, man, I can't afford that. I got to pay my bills. What is your feeling on, when I had my business, social media didn't exist, or the marketing side didn't exist. It was old fashioned. Print 200 door hangers and go to a neighborhood and just talk to people, pass them out, drop them off. If they'll say hi, say hi. Is that a lost art that just no one does anymore? Or is that something you still could be effective?
No, 100%. It could be, and it is effective. Salesmen are super valuable. Otherwise, companies wouldn't employ them. Companies aren't dumb, right? Salesmen are effective. Good salesmen are worth their weight in gold, right? Bad salesmen just cost you a lot of beer and hotel money. But if you don't have a lot of money, and it's back to how you most efficiently spend your time or your money, right? The most efficient spend of capital, if you have a limited amount, is social media. If you don't have that capital and you have time, go print out flyers and go to your ideal neighborhood. Go talk to some of the biggest contractors in the area, right? Make 4 or 5 phone calls. Go have a cup of coffee. Show up on the job site. Go to everywhere that your customers go to buy paint. Go make contacts with all the paint store owners. Leave your business card. Leave a flyer. Go to your hardware stores, right? Because all those hardware stores, they've got some 70-year-old biddy going in saying, I need a paint job. Do you know anyone? And he's going to remember your name, your smile, your shining face, and say, hey, Joe here's a local. Give him a shout, right? So 100% that still works.
Yeah, that was always my big one. I would take donuts. Had every manager of a paint store, local paint store, had my name. I had their phone number. I had their name. I would take them donuts once a week, $6 a dozen donuts. Soccer mom, soccer dad, whoever walks in, says, I need to get house painted. Oh yeah. Call Jim. He's a good guy. Or call Grant. He's an awesome guy. He'll take care of you. Call Zach. I mean, it just like clockwork, and it's getting back in. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah. I mean, this is more your territory than mine, but I am a firm believer that social media is a part of this, but in what I'm about to say. So I would preface that. Your work is great. Good job on those cabinets. I want to see who's coming to my door to give me the estimate. I want to feel like I know that person before they show up to my house. So get in front of the camera. Even if you don't like it, you think you look ugly, you think whatever, I don't care. People want to see the person that's doing the work. They want to feel like they've already got a relationship with you. So the more you're in front of the camera, and then you come to their house because they saw you and say, hey, this guy looks nice. He's polite, courteous on video, maybe makes a joke, does good. I don't have him come out and look at mine. And that's the guy who shows up. Like, you're already on a first name basis with that person before you even got to the door because they've been watching you. But if you're afraid to get in front of the camera, that's where you lose a lot of the connection.
Yeah. And let's keep in mind, we're herd animals at the end of the day, right? We belong with other people, right?
Yes.
We hunt in packs. So we feel comfortable when we're surrounded by people we know and trust. Another word for that is community, right? So if you're going back to sales and marketing 101, how do you become part of that community? So you're trusted, right? Whether it's on social media, you can become part of the local community or the paint community. People see your face. It's de-risked. Okay, I can trust you. You're part of that. Whether it's going to the local paint store, whether it's knocking on doors, get yourself involved in whatever community you want to be a part of, and you'll start to see that pay off large dividends because people instantly think, who can I trust? Oh, I know them. They've got a smiley face. They've never harmed me. I'll try it, versus some line in the yellow pages who doesn't call you back. I'm not saying that person's a bad person, but right, they're not a part of my community and I don't really know them that well.
Yeah. Excellent point. Man, this is, it's one thing I tell people, from getting you on the podcast, I greatly appreciate you coming on, is how the conversations can turn. Like, I mean, you just learn so much about people, and the community gets to learn about the people that are behind the products. But I wouldn't expected it to kind of veer on a marketing turn like we did. I mean, it's great because it's probably one of the big deals that painters struggle with. Besides just being able to operate a business and create a P&L and separate money, marketing is probably one of the biggest hurdles that I hear from my coaching clients and mastermind clients is, how do I get more leads? I mean, there's 100 guys out there that'll take your money and sell you leads, but they're not teaching them how to do it.
Yeah. And marketing's hard. Marketing's hard for me, and I teach the damn thing, right? Marketing's hard for Apple. If it was easy, they'd be 100 times the size that they are. Same with me, right? So it's a challenge every day. And how do you keep going out there? What works? What doesn't work, right? And then things like this, how can you share it with the community?
Yeah. And I mean, that's where this is really, the community's really been great on the finishing side. I love them to death. I love this.
It is community. A great community. Yeah.
It's they'll call you out on your BS, but at the same time, they'll support you all the way through. It's what I love about this world. And the fact that, and I think you're kind of in that boat. You kind of got into the paint world a little bit with Graco. And I tell people all the time, once you get into this industry, you can't get out. It's impossible. Every time you start to get out, it just pulls you back in. It's just like, nah, you're not going anywhere.
It just sucks you back in.
It sucks you back in. It's weird. Sold my company, had for 15 years. I was like, I'll do something else. Got sucked back into manufacturing. Got out of manufacturing, and I thought, I'll do something else. And then somebody's like, you should do a podcast. Just sucked me right back in.
It is a good community. And painters in general, 9 out of 10 are solid folks. I think everyone realizes that. And frankly, I appreciate the honesty.
It is welcomed nowadays. And it's old school, I think. There's still a lot more phone calls than there are text messages, which is nice in today's world.
Yeah, I'll take a phone call.
My rule of thumb is if it's more than 3 texts, expect the phone to ring.
Mine is like 3 sentences. If it's more than 3 sentences, I know it's going to be at least 20. So let's just cut this off and have a 1-minute phone conversation.
I like it. Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you've got stuff going on. But before we close it out, I always like to ask a couple things. Is any last words of wisdom that you could share with the guys out there, whether it be with, product creation and or on the marketing side, anything that you think the community would benefit from?
So people hire people, or people buy things because they have a problem to solve, right? They want their house to be prettier. They want it to last longer, right? Find out what problem you are truly solving for your customers. Once you can find out, and you better be able to explain it in about 10 seconds. If you can't explain it in less than a minute, you don't understand their problem, whether you're painting houses or coating a pipeline or whatever it is. Find out what their problem is and hyper focus on solving that problem for them. That's it. Let's not get more complicated than that, okay? Most people you talk to, they can't tell you why their customers want their house painted. Right? How can you truly figure out why they do? What's the reason? And then craft your business around that. And I think you'll find kind of that Pareto rule, 80-20. A lot of that little issues that you deal with, a lot of that can just slide off the plate, right? As long as you focus on what your customers truly want solved, you're going to be good to go.
That's a good one. Good advice. Love that. I like it. What about... I've kind of started this one, and let me know what you think. Going back, because you've had quite the career and what you've done. Going back, talking to now at this point in your life, going back to 18-year-old, 19-year-old Grant, looking back on what do I want to do when I get out? What advice would you give yourself now?
Don't be so damn serious. Go fishing more often.
I like that.
Those old men that you're looking at that you think they've got it figured out, they don't know shit either. Right? Be easy on yourself. I don't know if
truer words have ever been said. Yeah, you think everyone's got it figured out.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. That is great. Yeah.
So be easy on yourself. Go fishing if you can, right? Life's too short to work all the damn time. And if things need to change, that's okay, right? You can change things. That's it.
That's good. So besides fishing, what's final one? What's Grant do outside of growing businesses? What's a passion or something that might surprise us about you?
Well, I got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. So most of my time is spent with my kids, and they are my passion, and I absolutely love hanging out with them. We're talking about getting a dog, but my true passion is motorcycles. So I'm looking at getting my kids some little motorcycles, maybe a new puppy. Right? They're young. You got to spoil your kids. So, right, how can I spoil my kids? Convince them not to go into club soccer, but convince them that fishing is 10 times more fun than soccer. That's my goal for the next 2 years.
I like that. My wife says I really messed up because my son is 7, fixing to turn 8. And I kind of accidentally, on purpose, got him addicted to horses and performance horses, like cutting and reining. And he's just ate up on it. Lessons, wants to buy horses and go to the rodeos. And my wife's like, I think club soccer might have been cheaper.
May have been cheaper, but not as much fun.
I get to do it with him. So that's what my love is we go riding together. We go to lessons together. We're learning how to cut and do the reining patterns. And I mean, it's just dad and Axton time. And yeah, it's a lot of
passion,
fun.
Man. Sharing that passion is absolutely what it's about with kids. So
it is 100%. Man. Well, Grant, man, I greatly appreciate you coming on the show. This has been a fantastic episode. Covered a lot of topics. I'm glad you're in the community. I think you're doing some great things. Do anything I can to help you out with Stop Loss. If you need any help or need some connections, just let me know. I'm excited for you. Excited to see where this goes for you guys.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Zach. Those are some awful kind words. And likewise, if I can help out you or any of your listeners, just go ahead and reach out to me. It's a small world, right? In the painting world, it's not 6 degrees of separation. It's probably 2 or 3.
2 or 3 at most.
Yeah. Back to our conversation about community. You're doing a wonderful job getting it together. So thank you very much for doing that, giving people a place to come together, and you're doing good work. So please keep it up.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. That means a lot. We'll wrap that up here. You guys, make sure if you like the episode, give it a like. Make sure you're following us every Monday. We got a new one coming out, and we will see you next Monday.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.